this episode of Magic Missile Minis. Today what we're going to be working on is a conversion diorama. So a little while ago I got my hands on some Space Marine models, and more specifically I got some of the Space Marine motorcycles, which I was really excited about because one of the things I wanted to do would basically make a diorama with a Space Marine kind of jumping off of a motorcycle that's like flipping through the air and blowing up or something along those lines. So just capturing a great amount of like motion and mid-action like shot in a diorama and having him jump at some like Chaos Space Marine or something like that. So having the Space Marine models, I went to my Warhammer store and I bought this guy, one of the Daemon Princes. I think that's how you pronounce it. And so I'm gonna do a little bit of converting on him and a little bit of converting onto the motorcycle and the Space Marine itself. So without further ado, let's get onto the project. Alrighty, so the first thing I wanted to do was cut out this main piece here and just assemble the main parts of the body that I knew I wasn't going to change all that much. Just using my X-Acto blade and cutting out the pieces I knew I was going to use. Specifically going for the Space Marine one since it's going to be a Space Marine diorama. I make sure to go over all of the little mold lines and sprue tabs and clean those up as necessary to make sure that they're as difficult to spot as possible. Once I've got all of the sprue tabs and all that scraped off of the pieces I need, I take some of this plastic cement glue. I'm not entirely sure what it's called, but it's basically, it actually melts the plastic a little bit as opposed to just creating like something super sticky that it sticks to. And so it creates a really strong bond. This is the brand that I'm using, this Tamiya extra thin cement. And this stuff is really great for conversions because it just creates a wicked seal between all of your pieces since they actually kind of turn into one piece instead of just having them be stuck together and easily breakable. One of the things that I wanted to do for this diorama was rather than have the Daemon Prince just have this like claw arm, I wanted to use this piece here to kind of replace that with like a big old laser cannon type deal. So I decided what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to chop off all of these fingers here and then use this arm as a base for that. So basically, as I'm cutting these pieces up, I'm making sure that I am checking frequently whether the piece fits or not, because you can, while I can technically, as needed, sculpt extra bits on is if I have to, I would rather do as little of that as possible. So just kind of figuring out where everything needs to fit, so it's as close as a fit as possible before I whip out the green stuff and start adding details. So after a bunch of cutting and trimming and gluing, we're left with this, which despite my best wishes, I'm still going to have to go in with some green stuff and fill in gaps and kind of figure that out. But we'll do that once we're actually adding the rest of the details to make sure that this looks nice and chaosy. It doesn't look too bad on its own, but I think I want to add a couple details to really get the desired effect across. I then go ahead and grab a couple pieces from the set that I knew I wasn't going to use for the model to kind of play around with how I'm going to be adding to the arm that we have here. So I went ahead and added these horns onto the gun itself from just one of the extra head options that I knew I wasn't going to use for this, that came in this set. And I thought that looked really cool, but I couldn't find any other pieces that I was planning on attaching onto the gun. So that's kind of all the converting complete, and now I just needed to actually get into the sculpting. And while I had the green stuff out, I also decided I was going to go ahead and go around all of the cracks between the pieces where they've been attached and fill those in as well, because this is an older model, which is nice because it has a bunch of extra pieces that you can use for conversions, but it's older, so it's not quite as seamless as some of the newer models. So I go ahead and cover up all those little holes and little like cracks between the pieces, both on the gun arm as well as just the rest of the model here, just to make it look nice and finished once we're done, and you won't even be able to tell where those seams are. Some of the details that I wanted to add onto this specific part was kind of some tubes coming out of these large spaces here, some kind of trying to create some of the kind of biomechanical vibe that a lot of the chaos creatures have. So kind of having some weird tubes going into the gun that are like kind of look like they're kind of like fleshy intestines or something like that, to kind of help with that kind of feel, having one on this side, a smaller one on this side, and then two kind of coming out of this larger space that I have here. So now that I've actually added these little squares here that I'm going to attach the piping to, I decided I was going to take, first of all, I've let these set completely, and I'm going to take this roll maker, you can kind of see I've been messing around with a little bit, and I'm going to try to basically make a bunch of different rolls out of this and use those as piping that I'm going to be attaching to the main body of the arm here. And so once I've actually chopped it to size and actually attached it, I go back in and fix up the actual indentations that the roll maker made to make sure that they're still clearly visible, since I kind of was moving them around a little bit and flattened out some of the indents, and just kind of doing a little bit of editing to make sure that everything still looks all right. So with the first arm finished, it's time to work on the other one. And I was thinking of using this kind of Space Marine arm that they have, but I didn't like how flat it was. You can kind of see here that it's really, really thin on the bottom here. So what I've decided I was going to do was chop off these fingers and replace them with this like power sword type deal that they have, and so kind of giving him like a gauntlet blade energy sword type deal for the other arm. And I was thinking it would be kind of cool to have it like running a Space Marine through with kind of cool energy sword stuff going on. So I start obviously by taking this bit here and chopping off all the fingers before attaching the rest of the plasma sword onto it, cutting that off around the wrist, trying to keep this little bit here that has the little like kind of technology, little engine looking bit to make it kind of keep within the theme of the 40K universe. Once the all the different pieces are set in place, I start to fill in some of the gaps with a little bit of green stuff. So with the two arms finished with the Chaos guy, I decided I was going to move on to the Space Marine. I start by taking a pin vise and drilling a 1mm hole into the bottom of the miniature's head that I can stick a wire through and then use that kind of as a sculpting handle, since I'm going to add primarily some facial hair as well as just change up the hairstyle on top as well. So then I take my X-Acto knife and I start to slowly carve away at this little chin strap that he has underneath here, and try to just get rid of that, since I'm planning on adding like a little bit of a beard onto the bottom here. So just slowly and very carefully getting rid of the plastic as to not ruin any of the details beneath. So once I've got the face looking kind of like it has a little bit of an Abe Lincoln going on, I mix up some green stuff and I start to work on the facial hair, making out tiny little like sausages of the green stuff that I then put in place to make kind of a mustache goatee type beardy vibe. Once I've got the facial hair where I like it, I go ahead and I start drilling a small hole into the top of his head on his mohawk to work on the ponytail I'm going to be giving him, and using my X-Acto blade to create basically a pilot hole that I then widen and deepen with my 1mm drill bit in my pin vise that I can put a 1mm wire through that will basically be like a little armature that I can attach the hair to, so that I can play around with it kind of flowing through the wind, since this character is going to be kind of jumping through the air. Once the glue has mostly dried, because I'm kind of impatient, I can start to add a little bit more green stuff onto the wire that we've attached here, and start making the kind of bushy ponytail that I want this character to have. And just start sculpting that, and trying to sculpt in some realistic hair looking texture into it. And then as I'm going to continue to work on this, I'm also going to add a little bit more green stuff to the actual mohawk that he has, kind of making that look a little bit more natural, as though the hair is kind of being pulled back into the ponytail rather than just being kind of a mohawk that's trimmed and like buzzed short. So once I've got the head where I like it, I start assembling the rest of the miniature, which basically remains fairly unchanged, except that I'm going to wait to add the head till last, because I'm also just going to get rid of this little tab here, because I want to make sure that I can play around with the head angle and have that be in a place where I like it, so that he's actually facing the model that he's kind of jumping at in the main diorama. Now, with the Space Marine itself actually finished, I can start working on the motorcycle. And even before I start assembling, I need to do a good bit of editing, since I wanted to have this first bit, or this front bit, sorry, kind of exploding. So I start by chopping off these front parts right here. And I don't need to be too careful with how I do this, since it is, exploding. So I kind of play around with my X-Acto knife, as well as just going at it with some wire cutters to really get the bulk of it off, not being too concerned about whether it's going to be a clean cut, because it is supposed to be, again, blowing up. And so I take these main pieces off, since I'm going to have these exploding and going off in different directions, as well as, obviously, since this is where the wheel is attaching, I don't need to actually attach the wheel to these pieces, since they're going to be flying off in several different directions. The next order of business was to actually get rid of the Space Marine legs that are attached to the side panels and exhaust pipes of the motorcycles. So there's a little bit here that was attached that I just chopped that off to kind of separate these two pieces, so I can start working on this part a little bit more effectively, where these can just kind of go onto the model already, just kind of by themselves, since that's already what's going to be happening. But I did need to figure out how I wanted to deal with these guys. To keep everything a little bit simple for myself, I basically just cut off the exhaust pipe a little bit past where it connects to the leg, trying to keep the cut as clean as possible. And then what I was going to do was go in with some styrene like tubing that I got. It's a little bit smaller than these pipes, but what I'm going to do is have it be the same on both sides and basically just attach them to make it look like it's meant to actually get a little bit smaller at that point. And that way I don't have to do any shaving or any complicated stuff to really make it look pristine. I can just kind of have that be an abrupt cut and make it look intentional. So to actually attach the styrene tube that I'm going to attach here, I go in with a series of different sizes of drill bits with my pin vise until I have the right size for it. And that way the styrene tube isn't just kind of slapped onto the side, but it actually is going a little bit into the plastic, which will just help create a much stronger connection. Then I can go ahead and actually attach this new piece that we made to the rest of the model. And I cut it off right around where this piece right here is, which is the hole that the rest of the model used to attach itself to. And so, but then just figure out where I'm going to have that and make it kind of look like this tube is connected to that little port there to make it look as natural as possible. And then I just go ahead and cut into this to make sure that it can actually connect properly and kind of fit into a little divot into this tube. I then follow the same process on the other side of the model, chopping off the leg and doing everything the same way as I had done it before. So, with the motorcycle assembled, I'm going to leave the project here for now. So far, we've got this dude, our chaos guy, that are kind of loosely assembled with some sticky tack that I'm going to add a couple more details to. We still have the pauldrons and little bits onto the back that we need to add, but I'm going to wait for that until we have him positioned correctly on the base that we're going to be building in the next episode. We also have the Space Marine that's loosely assembled with his kind of custom head that we've added all the facial hair to, as well as the ponytail. Also still just attached with some sticky tack until he's on the diorama itself. And we also have the motorcycle that he's going to be jumping off of. And we've got a couple of the other motorcycle bits that we're going to be throwing into the explosion that we're going to be working on in the next episode when we finish the base. Thank you so much for watching that video. Stay tuned for part 2 that should be releasing next week on Friday at the same time. Hopefully the project won't be too much and I can get it finished by then. But if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to get notified when I release new videos, and leave a comment of any video suggestions or questions you might have about conversions or sculpting. But once again, thank you so much for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time.